The fundamental issue that we're dealing with and that justifies a specific consumer contract restatement is the fact that we are not talking about parties who deal with each other at arm's length from equal positions, negotiating a big transaction or something like this. Rather, on the one hand, stands a very sophisticated, well-counseled party who does these many times, has experience, and has maybe higher stakes because everything that is in the contract will affect numerous transactions. And on the other side stands a consumer who does not have the sophistication, knowledge, experience, or stakes in the matter. The consumer is less knowledgeable, but not necessarily irrational or stupid. It's very rational not to invest your lives spending, inquiring and investigating what's in the fine print. People want to enjoy the products, not the contracts. But the result is that they don't have the information and they don't have the incentive to acquire it. So in this asymmetric environment, what we see, of course, is that the businesses draft the contracts and the consumers passively accept them or live by them. Consumer contracts are part of everyday life and they appear many times every day in our life. Every time we enter a website, there are terms and conditions. This is legal matter and this is something that is regarded as a consumer contract, and the effects and the consequences of the terms that appear in those links are dealt with in our project. That's of course not the only one. In fact, every time we walk into a store and buy something, we enter some kind of a consumer contract. Every time we see a notice that is given to us by a business that is intended to affect liability, it is a consumer contract. There are many other contexts in which in our daily life as consumers, workers, shoppers, internet users, parents, passengers, you name it, we interact with businesses who have legal concerns, and an important way in which they try to address this legal concern is to write terms and present them to the consumers and hope that these terms will govern the interaction with the consumer. I think what the members of the ALI will see in this draft and a way to think about the various provisions is that it represents a bargain. We call it the grand bargain. On the one hand, the draft endorses rules of assent that are fairly lenient. They do not require too many clicks for terms to be adopted. They do not require too many boxes to pop up when consumers surf on the internet. And notices, meaningful notices, are enough for the terms to be adopted. That might raise the concern that businesses would take advantage of this relative freedom to adopt their drafted terms. And so the other side of the bargain is fairly strict limitations on how far businesses can go. We have adopted rules that have to do with unconscionability, what counts as unconscionable, with deception, and how the promise that was made to the consumers, the representations that were made to the consumers that drove them to enter into the contract, how those can be vindicated and not be frustrated by the fine print.